For 300 years, the black ships of the Vexar Dominion drifted silently through space like hunting sharks. Their hulls absorbed all light, and their red energy trails spread behind them like blood and water. They brought no peace, only fear. To the Vexar, weakness was meant to be ruled. With claws sharp as blades and skin hard as steel, they were the apex predators of the galaxy, the bringers of nightmares to every world they touched. But then, they made a mistake. They killed the wrong target, a human child. And from that moment on, they awakened the wrath of an entire species. The camera drifts through the infinite darkness of space, as if swallowed by the very void itself. A subtle tension fills the air as the stars fade into nothingness, swallowed by the growing presence of something far more sinister. Suddenly, the shadows move. The black ships of the Vexar Dominion emerge, their hulking forms slicing through the darkness like silent sharks hunting in the deep. These ships are unlike anything seen before, black, smooth, and devoid of all light, reflecting nothing but absorbing everything in their path. Their sheer presence distorts the very fabric of space, leaving behind long, crimson trails of energy, resembling the blood streaks left by a predator in the water. For over 300 years, these relentless machines have drifted from one world to another, bringing fear and domination with every move. Their cold, calculating eyes see every living being as nothing more than prey, weak species to be conquered, enslaved, or eradicated. As the ships glide through the cosmos, the camera shifts to the small, fragile speck of blue and green that is Earth. The Earth, an unremarkable planet nestled in a quiet corner of the galaxy, appears tiny and vulnerable when compared to the vast expanse of space. The humans, with their soft skin and lack of natural defenses, are far from being the mighty warriors of the stars. Their technology, while impressive, is still young and imperfect. Compared to the ancient, powerful civilizations that stretch across the galaxy, Earth is but a flicker in the dark, fragile, and untested. Yet, the humans are not entirely helpless. They have chosen a different path, one of cooperation, not conquest. They joined the Galactic Assembly, a network of alien species working together, trading knowledge and sharing resources. Though small, Earth's place in the Assembly has secured its survival so far. But all that is about to change. As the camera zooms in, we find ourselves descending on Earth's outer reaches, Nova Haven, a colony perched on the very edge of human space. This world, still in the early stages of its transformation, is breathtakingly beautiful. Vast oceans stretch out under a sky of gentle azure, while forests with trees that shimmer in hues of deep purple spread across the landscape. It's a peaceful world, a world that seems untouched by the chaos of the greater galaxy, where every step is a quiet exploration, every corner still unknown. Among the few thousand souls who call Nova Haven home, Ellie Chen stands out. At just 8 years old, Ellie has a keen sense of adventure and a love for the wild, untamed places of the planet. As the daughter of the colony's chief terraforming engineer, she knows this planet better than most adults. With her dark braids bouncing as she runs, Ellie eagerly explores the alien wilderness. Her constant companion is Spark, a small but intelligent robot. Spark is not just a toy, it is her protector and guide, its glowing blue sensor light always dancing in rhythm with Ellie's laughter. But on this day, while Ellie wanders through the tall, purple grasses, something in the sky stirs. A shadow moves silently across the heavens. High above, just beyond Ellie's reach, a Vexar scout ship watches, hidden by advanced cloaking technology. Unbeknownst to her, the events of this peaceful morning will soon spiral into something much darker, something that will change everything. For the Vexar, Nova Haven is nothing more than another weak, insignificant planet, ripe for the taking. They don't see a vibrant world full of life and potential, they only see easy prey. And as the Vexar prepare for their attack, no one, not even Ellie, can predict the horrifying storm that is about to descend upon them all. Inside the darkened command room of the Vexar scout ship, the air feels thick with a sense of cold superiority. Commander Val stands before a large, glowing screen, his yellow eyes glowing like molten gold as they fixate on the peaceful world below. His sharp, jagged claws tap lightly against the console in a rhythmic display of impatience. "They are nothing but prey," Val says, his voice laced with an arrogant certainty. His eyes narrow as he surveys the human colony, watching as families go about their day, unaware of the impending destruction. A weak settlement, full of soft-skinned creatures. This will be an easy conquest. His lips curl into a vicious smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "We'll take their people as slaves, especially their young ones. They always fetch a high price." The cold hum of the ship's systems vibrates the air, adding an eerie undertone to his words. Val turns to his second-in-command, a Vexar officer standing rigidly at attention. "Prepare the warriors. We attack at dawn. Let them feel the full force of the Vexar Dominion." Back on Nova Haven, the sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows over the alien landscape. Ellie, completely unaware of the growing threat above, is out in the wilds, collecting the blue flowers she's always loved. The vibrant petals shimmer in the fading light as she crouches down by the riverbank, her fingers brushing against the soft, delicate blooms. Spark, her ever-watchful robot companion, hovers nearby, its sensor light blinking anxiously. "Ellie," it chirps in its friendly, mechanical voice, "I'm detecting strange atmospheric shifts. We should return to the colony. The weather is changing." Ellie smiles at Spark but waves off the warning, her curiosity pulling her deeper into the wild beauty of the planet. "It's just a little wind, Spark," she laughs. "We have plenty of time before we have to go back." She plucks another blue flower from the river's edge, holding it up to the fading light, unaware that this moment will be the last peaceful one she ever has. The skies above, once calm and clear, begin to shift, dark clouds gathering in ominous formations. But Ellie, with her innocent excitement, remains oblivious, lost in her exploration. Above, in the vast expanse of the sky, the Vexar ships remain cloaked, watching, waiting. And then, at once, they make their move. Without warning, the tranquility of Nova Haven is shattered. The first of the Vexar warships breaks through the clouds, a massive shadow that blots out the sun. The ship's black hull gleams, and the bright red energy trails behind it like blood flowing through the stars. One by one, more Vexar ships descend, their weapons already powered up, ready to unleash chaos. The camera zooms in on the colony below, now in utter turmoil. Alarms blare, their shrill sound cutting through the air as people scramble in panic, running for shelter. The bright, tranquil streets of Nova Haven transform into scenes of chaos as families race to escape, and security personnel try desperately to organize an evacuation. But it's no use. The Vexar ships strike with overwhelming force. Energy beams of red fire light up the sky as they tear through the colony's feeble defenses, slicing through human patrol ships in moments. The human ships explode into brilliant bursts of flame, their remains scattering across the sky like broken stars. From the control room of the colony, Director Maya Wilson watches the destruction unfold on the screens. Her face pales, eyes wide with disbelief. "They are here," she whispers in horror. "The Vexar, they are attacking." In the distance, Ellie is racing back toward the colony, her heart pounding with the thrill of adventure. But as she nears the colony's borders, a sharp, thunderous boom fills the air. Ellie looks up to see the sky darkened by the descending warships, their weapons charging. A flash of red light explodes above her, and she freezes, looking up in shock as the attack begins. The once peaceful world of Nova Haven is now under assault, and the cries of panic and destruction rise into the air, carried by the winds of a nightmare that has just begun. Ellie, still clutching her precious blue flower, runs towards the chaos, unaware that her world and her innocence will never be the same again. The ground shakes with every footfall of the Vexar warriors as they descend from their warships, their black armor gleaming like the night itself. The once peaceful streets of Nova Haven are now flooded with chaos. Alarms scream in the background, blending with the sounds of running footsteps, shouts, and explosions. The Vexar, tall and fierce with their cold yellow eyes, move swiftly through the colony, their weapons blazing red, leaving destruction in their wake. In the midst of this nightmare, Ellie and her father, Dr. Ellie Chen, sprint toward the emergency shelter. Ellie's heart pounds in her chest, her breath short and fast. She clutches Spark, the little robot companion who hovers nervously beside her, its blue sensor light flashing a deep, anxious red. "Dad, what's happening? Where is everyone?" Ellie asks, her voice trembling with fear. Dr. Chen, his face pale but determined, looks down at his daughter with a calmness he doesn't feel. "We're going to be okay," he says, his voice steady despite the panic that grips his heart. "Stay close to me, Ellie. Don't worry. Just keep running." The sight of their colony, her home under attack, is too much for Ellie to comprehend. Her hands clutch her father's arm, her mind racing with thoughts of her mother, the other children, the safety of everyone she loves. The ground beneath them trembles again, and Ellie stumbles, almost falling. "Come on, Ellie, we're almost there," Dr. Chen urges, his grip tightening on her hand as he pulls her forward. The bright blue light of Spark flashes urgently, as if trying to make sense of the chaotic signals it's receiving from the outside. As they round the corner to the shelter, Ellie hears the deafening roar of Vexar warriors in the distance. The sound sends a chill through her. But just as the door to the shelter slides open, Dr. Chen stops, his eyes scanning the horizon. "You'll be safe here," Dr. Chen says softly, looking at Ellie one last time. He crouches down to her level, the urgency of the moment pressing on his shoulders. "Spark will protect you. Promise me, Ellie. Be brave. Stay safe." "I will, Dad," Ellie whispers, her voice barely audible as she fights to hold back tears. "I'll be brave." Dr. Chen hesitates for just a moment, brushing a strand of hair from her face, before giving her a final, tight hug. Then, he stands, turning toward the battlefield outside. "I'll come back for you, I promise," he says, his voice breaking only slightly. As Dr. Chen exits the shelter, Spark gives Ellie a soft, reassuring beep. It hovers beside her, its sensor light turning green to signal its protective mode. "I will ensure your safety," Spark announces in its mechanical voice, a small comfort amidst the chaos. Ellie watches as her father disappears into the smoke and dust, disappearing into the horrors that are unfolding outside the shelter. The sounds of the battle grow louder, the roar of the Vexar's weapons cutting through the air like a hot knife through flesh. Inside the shelter, the air feels heavy, thick with fear and uncertainty. Ellie sits in a small corner with the other children, some older, some younger. They huddle together, shivering as the distant sounds of battle echo through the thick walls of their hiding place. The room smells faintly of old metal and must, a stark contrast to the fresh air of Nova Haven just hours ago. The children whisper nervously to each other, their eyes wide with fear. One of the older boys, a tall figure who looks to be around 14, tries to comfort the younger ones, but his voice shakes with fear. "It'll be over soon. They won't find us," he says, though the uncertainty in his eyes betrays his words. Ellie hugs her knees tightly to her chest, her mind swirling with worry for her father and the rest of the colony. Why is this happening? She thinks over and over again. Her thoughts are interrupted by the faint sound of footsteps approaching, the unmistakable, heavy thud of armored boots. The Vexar warriors are close, and they are coming for them. Spark turns its sensor light to a bright, harsh red, scanning the door and the room with frantic energy. Defensive protocols engaged, Spark announces, its voice sharp with urgency. I will protect you, Ellie. Do not worry. Ellie feels a brief sense of comfort as the robot positions itself between the children and the door, its little lights flickering and pulsing in rhythmic patterns. She watches Spark with wide eyes, a mixture of awe and fear flooding her chest. Spark had always been her companion, her helper, but never had it felt so much like a protector. We'll be okay, she tells herself, trying to hold on to that thought. But then, the sounds from outside grow louder, more explosions, more screaming. The Vexar warriors are here. Suddenly, the door to the shelter rattles. The children freeze, holding their breath. Every heart seems to stop for a moment. The door shudders again, the heavy thud of claws on metal resounding through the walls. Ellie grips Spark tightly, the fear in her chest growing to an unbearable pressure. We're trapped, she whispers. Spark immediately reacts, its sensors scanning rapidly. We will find another way, it says, its mechanical voice unwavering despite the threat looming so close. Follow me. Ellie rises to her feet, grabbing the hands of the younger children around her. She looks to Spark, and for a brief second, she sees a glimmer of hope in the robot's glowing eyes. The children, led by Ellie and Spark, rush toward the back of the shelter, where there is a small maintenance tunnel, a hidden escape route Ellie's father had shown her in case of emergency. The clanking of Vexar feet grows louder, closer. Ellie's heart races in her chest as she hurries through the narrow tunnel with the others. The escape is their only hope now. But behind them, the sounds of the Vexar closing in are unmistakable. Ellie's breath catches in her throat, but Spark is there, guiding them through the darkness, determined to keep them safe. The tunnel is cold and narrow, its metal walls pressing in on the children as they crawl through the darkness. Their hands scrape against the rusted pipes that run along the walls, their breaths shallow and rapid in the tight space. Ellie is at the front, guiding them with a steady hand, her mind focused on the only thing that matters, getting the others to safety. Spark hovers beside her, its soft, comforting beep acting as a guiding light in the blackness. Behind them, the sounds of chaos grow louder, shouts, explosions, the relentless thud of Vexar boots shaking the very ground. The walls seem to tremble with every step the invaders take, a constant reminder that they are not alone. The children's fear is palpable, their tiny bodies trembling as they follow Ellie, their hands gripping her as if she alone could save them. She is the brave one, the one who keeps moving, never stopping, never hesitating. As they crawl, Ellie's thoughts are fixed on one goal: to escape, to survive. But with each passing second, the weight of responsibility bears heavier on her shoulders. The tunnel feels like it stretches endlessly, each turn taking them farther away from their once peaceful home. Suddenly, a soft cry comes from behind. Ellie, I'm scared, one of the younger children whispers, her voice trembling with terror. Ellie turns, her heart breaking as she sees the little girl's wide eyes, filled with raw fear. Ellie pauses, squeezing the child's hand. We're going to be okay, Ellie says, her voice steady despite the fear tightening around her chest. Just keep going. We have to stick together. But then, the unmistakable sound of footsteps rumbles through the tunnel. The Vexar warriors are closing in. The camera shifts to the children's faces, their expressions full of panic as they hear the growl of the Vexar in the distance. Ellie's heart races, and her mind races faster. They can't stop now. The path ahead is their only chance. But then she hears a faint sound, a muffled cry from further down the tunnel. One of the younger children, lost in the dark, has veered off the path and taken the wrong turn. The tunnel branches into two ways, and now Ellie faces a choice. The way forward is clear, but the lost children need her. They are small, fragile. If they don't find their way back, they'll be trapped. Ellie doesn't think twice. "Spark, stay here with them," she orders, her voice sharp and clear. "I'll go back. We can't leave anyone behind." Spark beeps in acknowledgement, its red sensor light flashing rapidly. "Understood. I will protect them, Ellie." Without another word, Ellie turns and races back down the tunnel, her small hands gripping the walls to propel herself faster. The other children call after her, their voices a mixture of fear and desperation. But Ellie doesn't stop. She can hear the frantic sounds of the lost children ahead, their cries echoing through the narrow passage. Time is running out. The camera tracks Ellie as she turns down the side tunnel, crawling into the darkness with determination. Her heart thuds in her chest as she pushes forward. The distant sounds of the Vexar warriors grow louder. They are near. Finally, Ellie finds the children huddled at a dead end. Their faces are streaked with tears, their bodies pressed tightly against the walls, hoping for an escape that doesn't exist. "There's no way out," one of them sobs, her voice breaking. Ellie's mind races. The walls are too close, the tunnel too narrow. They are trapped. But she spots something, an old, rusted grate at the far end of the tunnel, a small opening large enough to crawl through. The only chance they have to survive. "Don't worry. We can make it through there," Ellie says, her voice filled with fierce determination. "We have to move quickly." But as Ellie turns back to guide the children toward the grate, the sound of footsteps suddenly stops her. A cold, eerie silence fills the air. The shadows at the end of the tunnel shift, and Ellie's blood runs cold. A massive figure steps into view, its armor black and imposing, its yellow eyes glowing with malice. The Vexar warrior stands tall, its clawed hands gripping a deadly weapon. It watches Ellie with a chilling, almost curious expression, its growl vibrating through the walls. "You think you can escape?" The Vexar warrior's voice is low, guttural. It speaks in its own language, then pauses, as if savoring the moment. "Brave little prey." Ellie freezes. Her heart beats in her throat, but she doesn't back down. She stands tall, holding Spark close to her chest, the only thing left in the world that she can protect. "You shouldn't be here," Ellie says, her voice shaking but defiant. "This is our home. We won't let you take it." The Vexar warrior laughs, a cold, merciless sound. It steps closer, its claws clicking against the metal floor, each movement deliberate, slow, as if savoring the moment of victory. It towers over her, and Ellie can feel the heat from its armor, smell the metallic scent of battle in the air. With a snarl, the Vexar warrior raises its weapon. Ellie holds her ground, determined to protect the children behind her. "Useless bravery," the Vexar growls, before striking. In a single, swift motion, the warrior's claws slash down, and Ellie's body goes still. She falls to the ground, Spark clutched tightly in her arms. The little robot's sensor light flickers briefly, before it powers down completely. As Ellie's vision fades, the last thing she hears is Spark's mechanical voice, desperately calling out to the colony's emergency beacon. "Ellie, protect the children, rest now." The military ship UNSC Daz glides silently through the void of space, its engines humming softly as it approaches the remains of Nova Haven. The colony, once vibrant and full of life, now lies in ruins, its structures crumbling, smoking wreckage scattered across the once beautiful planet. The camera moves slowly over the devastation, capturing the destruction, the shattered domes, collapsed buildings, and the barren streets that were once alive with the sounds of humanity. Silence hangs heavy over the wreckage, broken only by the faint hum of the ship's systems. The stark contrast between the peaceful world that once was and the destruction left behind is eerie. On board the UNSC Daz, the crew, led by Captain Helen Ray, moves cautiously through the ruins. Their expressions are grim, faces drawn with the weight of the mission ahead. They know what they are about to find. There are no survivors. The only thing left to do is recover the remains, and, perhaps, uncover anything that might help their cause. As they step off the ship and onto the dust-covered surface of Nova Haven, the reality of the destruction is even worse than they imagined. Every familiar structure is now nothing more than twisted metal and burning remnants of what used to be a thriving human colony. "Captain," one of the officers calls out, his voice tight with the gravity of what they've found. He is holding something small in his hands, something barely recognizable in the wake of the attack. As Captain Ray approaches, he hands her an emergency beacon, still flickering with weak light. The device is cracked but operational enough to transmit a signal. The crew gathers around as they examine it. Without hesitation, Captain Ray signals for the video to play. The screen flickers to life, and there, clear as day, is the face of an 8-year-old girl, Ellie. Her dark braids sway slightly as she stands tall in the video, facing down a towering Vexar warrior, her defiance shining through despite the terror around her. Her small hands grip her robot companion Spark tightly, and her voice, though shaky, is filled with fierce determination. "You shouldn't be here," Ellie says, her voice trembling but strong. "This is our home. We won't let you take it." The crew watches in stunned silence, the raw emotion of the moment washing over them. The video continues, the image of Ellie standing alone, a child against the might of the Vexar, filling every screen. The moment of violence arrives quickly. The Vexar warrior raises its weapon, and with a cruel swipe, strikes Ellie down. Her small body crumples to the ground, still holding Spark in her arms. The video doesn't end there. In her final act, Spark, its systems failing, sends the video to the colony's emergency beacon, a last effort to ensure that Ellie's bravery would not be forgotten. The camera lingers on the image of Spark's sensor light flickering as the transmission ends, and the video cuts out. The room is silent for a long moment, the crew processing what they've just witnessed. Captain Ray's eyes glisten with unshed tears, her face pale as she watches the young girl fight, knowing that she would not survive. Her hands tremble slightly as she wipes away the tears, the reality of what humanity has just lost sinking in. "My God," Captain Ray whispers, her voice hoarse, filled with sorrow. "Get this back to Earth. Immediately. We need to send this video to every colony. Every home." The officer moves swiftly to carry out the order. The camera shifts to show various locations on Earth. The video spreads quickly across homes, workplaces, schools, and news outlets. Families sit together, watching the video of Ellie's defiance. The air is thick with grief as every human across the globe watches in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the loss. In living rooms, people grasp each other, children confused and frightened by the tragedy. They can't understand the full weight of the moment, but they feel the sorrow, the anger. In a military command center in London, an elderly man watches the video intently. His face hardens as he sees the moment Ellie falls, and his eyes narrow when he recognizes her face. His throat tightens as he realizes, this is his granddaughter. The grief overwhelms him, and for the first time in years, Admiral William Chen allows himself to cry, Ellie, he breathes out, the name coming as a whisper, his hands shaking as he reaches for the phone. Get me the Security Council. Now. As Admiral Chen dials, the camera shifts again, showing the United Nations Assembly in New York. The room is filled with world leaders, diplomats, military officials, and ambassadors, all gathered to discuss the Vexar threat. The room is thick with tension, whispers passing through the crowd. But when the video of Ellie's final stand plays on the large screen, the room goes deathly silent. Every leader, every face in the room reflects the same emotion: grief, disbelief, and a simmering, primal anger. Humanity's heart breaks in unison, and something shifts in the air. The video, of a child standing up to an impossible enemy, has ignited something far deeper than sorrow. It has sparked fury. Admiral Chen, his voice filled with quiet rage, steps forward. "This video is a message," he says, his words calm but filled with conviction. "Humanity has always sought peace. But these Vexar, they have killed one of ours. They have murdered a child. And now, we will show them the price of that mistake." There is a moment of hushed acknowledgement among the leaders. Earth, for the first time, stands united not out of fear, but out of necessity, driven by the brutal loss of one of their own. The attack on Nova Haven was not just an attack on a colony, it was an attack on all of humanity. And no one will walk away unscathed. The video of Ellie's bravery spreads to every corner of Earth. It doesn't just bring sorrow, it brings a collective will, a quiet storm of resolve. Humanity is no longer divided, they are united in their grief and their rage. It is no longer just about survival, it is about justice, and the Vexar will pay for what they have done. The fire ignited by Ellie's final act burns bright across the planet. Humanity has heard her message, and they will not forget. Admiral William Chen sits alone in his office, staring at the small screen in front of him. The video of Ellie's final moments plays again and again, each replay stripping away a little more of his composure. He watches his granddaughter, brave and defiant, standing tall before the towering Vexar warrior. Her small body, so full of life just moments before, now lies motionless. His hands tremble as he watches the strike, as Ellie falls to the ground. His chest tightens, and his heart shatters as her last breath fades from the screen. For a moment, he feels his strength give way, but then the pain turns to fury. This child, his blood, his granddaughter, did not die in vain. She stood up to the monsters who destroyed everything she loved, and now, he would make them pay for it. He swipes his hand across the screen, wiping away the tears that blur his vision. "This will not stand," he mutters, his voice low but filled with a fierce resolve. His eyes, filled with the agony of loss, now burn with an unshakable determination. He picks up the phone, his hands steady despite the grief that still grips him. "Get me the Security Council," he commands. "Now. It's time for action. The Vexar must be stopped." Moments later, the holographic screens light up with the faces of military leaders, politicians, and representatives from around the world. The air is thick with tension, and the gravity of the situation settles heavily on everyone present. Admiral Chen stands before them, his presence commanding, but it is the sorrow and anger in his eyes that speaks louder than anything else. "My granddaughter is dead," he begins, his voice strong despite the raw pain in it. "And so is every soul on Nova Haven. The Vexar did this. They slaughtered innocent people, including a child. My granddaughter was murdered." His fists clench at his sides, the weight of his grief pushing him to the edge of fury. They've made a grave mistake. A mistake they will regret. The room falls silent. The leaders of the world, some still in disbelief, exchanged looks, recognizing the shared pain and understanding that this is not just a personal tragedy. This is a war that must be fought. This attack was not just on one colony, but on all of humanity. Admiral Chen's gaze hardens. The Vexar have attacked us, killed our people, and thought they could get away with it. But now, we fight back. We will show them the price of this mistake. His words strike like a hammer. The leaders nod in grim understanding, the decision made. For the first time in history, humanity unites not out of fear, but out of a shared fury, a collective will to stop the threat the Vexar pose. This is no longer about survival, Admiral Chen continues. This is about justice. We fight for every life they've taken, for every child like Ellie who deserves to grow up in peace. And we will make sure they never forget who we are. The words hang in the air as the room fills with the sound of phones being picked up, orders being issued, and plans being made. Military leaders around the world begin coordinating, their voices sharp with purpose. Across the globe, the first signs of humanity's response begin to emerge. Hidden warships rise from their secret stations, some from beneath the oceans, others from deep in asteroid fields. Military bases long dormant spring to life as human forces prepare for battle. Soldiers gather, their uniforms pressed and weapons ready. The sound of engines roaring to life fills the air as fighter jets ascend from launch pads. Earth's leaders, once fractured by political and territorial lines, now stand as one. Their focus, their anger, and their determination are no longer divided. They are united by a single cause: the Vexar will pay for what they have done. Admiral Chen watches as the global forces mobilize, a sense of finality settling over him. He is no longer just a military leader, he is a symbol of humanity's resolve. His face, though lined with grief, shows the fire of someone who will not rest until the Vexar are stopped. We show them our strength, but more than that, we show them our unity, Admiral Chen says, his voice cutting through the room. For the first time, we stand together. For the first time, we are one. And for the first time, the Vexar will learn that they are not the apex predators of this galaxy. We are. The camera lingers on the screen as the faces of world leaders fill the room, their eyes reflecting a shared understanding. They know what they must do. The warships are prepared. The military is united. Humanity has found its purpose. The Vexar have made their move, and now, humanity will respond with a force unlike any they have ever seen. The preparations continue across the world, and for the first time, humanity is united. As the fleets are readied, the military leaders prepare to move out. They are no longer fighting for territory or power, but for something far more important: survival, justice, and the memory of those they've lost. The stage is set. The Vexar will soon face the full wrath of humanity. And as the ships rise into the stars, Earth's leaders, with Admiral Chen at the helm, prepare for the final confrontation. Humanity will not be defeated. The Vexar High Command watches the human fleet assemble from the comfort of their war room, their faces filled with disdain. To them, humanity is nothing more than a fleeting, fragile species, a weak, soft creature with no real power to stand against them. Their confidence is unshakable. They believe their overwhelming numbers, their massive ships, and their advanced weaponry will crush the humans without struggle. The Vexar have conquered countless worlds, dominated entire species, and their history has been built on the belief that they are the apex predators of the galaxy. But the Vexar are blind to one crucial truth. They cannot see the force that lies within humanity. The true strength of humans is not in their weapons or their ships, it is in something far deeper, something intangible. It is the bond between them, the shared will to protect one another, the collective drive to survive. Humans do not fight for power or glory. They fight because they have something worth protecting. And when they fight as one. In the midst of the Vexar's arrogance, the human fleet begins its assault. Small, agile ships glide through the void of space, moving in perfect harmony. Their movements are fluid, almost as if they are one entity, coordinated in a way the Vexar cannot predict. Each ship is a part of something larger, something far more complex than raw strength. The Vexar, with their overwhelming numbers, expect a battle of brute force. Instead, they are met with something much more dangerous: strategy. Human ships don't charge blindly into battle. Instead, they weave in and out of enemy fire, drawing the Vexar into traps and ambushes. They lure the Vexar ships into carefully planned positions, using their superior maneuverability to strike when and where the Vexar least expect it. The Vexar cannot understand how the humans anticipate their every move. The humans are unpredictable, elusive, their tactics a puzzle the Vexar cannot solve. Every time they think they have the upper hand, the humans slip away, leaving only destruction in their wake. The camera shifts to the human fleet, a tightly knit formation of ships moving with eerie precision. There is no hesitation, no discord. Every ship, every crew member, is focused on the same goal: to free the enslaved and bring chaos to the Vexar's carefully structured empire. The ships drop down from the shadows of asteroids, striking at Vexar outposts hidden deep within the galaxy. They move like ghosts, appearing from nowhere, attacking with lightning speed before vanishing into the blackness once again. The Vexar, confused and disoriented, try to regroup, but their efforts are in vain. Humanity's strikes are surgical, leaving the Vexar in disarray. The human fleet does not just attack for victory, they fight to free the countless species held captive by the Vexar, enslaved for generations. As the humans make their moves, they rescue the oppressed, those once beaten down by the Vexar's might, bringing them to safety, offering them hope. The freed species, once cowering in fear, now join humanity's cause, fighting alongside them. The Vexar are blindsided by this unexpected alliance. The slaves they once ruled with iron fists now turn against them, adding chaos to the already crumbling Vexar empire. In the heat of battle, the Vexar's confidence falters. Their ships, once powerful and imposing, now appear clumsy and slow. They are unprepared for the sheer willpower of humanity, the relentless drive of a species that will not be crushed. The Vexar commanders, who thought this would be an easy conquest, now watch in disbelief as their strongholds fall one after another. The Vexar warriors, trained for power, cannot comprehend how their enemies, so seemingly weak, have turned the tide of war. The chaos spreads across the Vexar fleet. Commanders shout orders, trying desperately to regain control, but the damage is done. The Vexar are unraveling. Their strength, their numbers, and their advanced technology mean nothing when faced with an enemy that refuses to back down, that fights with everything they have, for each other and for those they love. As the human fleet continues its assault, the Vexar High Command realizes too late that they have underestimated humanity. It is not the raw power of their ships or their technology that will defeat the Vexar. It is the strength of their unity, the bond between them, and their unrelenting will to fight for freedom. The Vexar will learn this lesson the hard way: humanity may be small, but together, they are unstoppable. The galaxy will never be the same again. Admiral Chen stands at the helm of the human flagship, the Avenger, his eyes locked onto the vast expanse of space ahead. The heart of Vexar territory is within reach, and the final battle looms before them. His hands grip the armrests of his command chair, his jaws set in grim determination. The Vexar homeworld lies just beyond the dark abyss, its surface a place of nightmares for those who have suffered under the Vexar's cruel reign. This is not just a battle for victory, it is a fight for justice, for the lives of those who have been enslaved, for Ellie, and for every human lost in this brutal war. The fleet, once scattered and uncertain, now moves as one. Hundreds of ships, small, fast, and relentless, form a tight formation, ready to strike at the heart of their enemy's empire. The Vexar think they are prepared for this final assault, but they are wrong. Humanity's resolve has transformed them into something far more dangerous than mere numbers. The fleet moves with precision, every ship in perfect coordination, attacking with swift, deadly force. The Vexar's defenses, once thought impenetrable, begin to crumble under the pressure. Engage at will, Admiral Chen commands, his voice unwavering, as the Avenger leads the charge into the depths of Vexar space. The first volley of weapons erupts from human ships, tearing into the Vexar outposts with ruthless efficiency. Explosions light up the black void of space as the human fleet presses forward, undeterred by the Vexar's desperate counterattacks. The Vexar, though powerful, are overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of humanity's tactics, unable to adapt fast enough to the coordinated assault. The human ships are nimble, constantly shifting positions, never staying in one place long enough for the Vexar to gain a decisive advantage. Every strike they make is calculated, every maneuver executed with unrelenting precision. The Vexar warriors, who had once felt invincible, now feel the grip of fear tightening around them as they watch their empire begin to crumble. Meanwhile, on the surface of Vexar's capital planet, Captain Maya Santos leads a stealth mission to rescue the surviving colonists from Nova Haven, who have been held captive in a hidden Vexar stronghold. The mission is dangerous, and time is running out. Maya's team moves like shadows, using the cover of darkness and the chaos of battle to slip past the Vexar's defenses. They move through the labyrinth of the Vexar stronghold, their every step calculated, every turn a decision between life and death. The prisoners, humans and other enslaved species, are hidden deep within the stronghold, their fates uncertain, but Maya and her team press forward. The mission is more than a simple rescue. It is a chance to strike at the heart of the Vexar's power, to free those they had enslaved for so long, and to deal one final blow to the Vexar Empire. But the deeper they go, the more they sense they are being hunted. The sound of Vexar warriors' footsteps grows louder as they close in on the prisoner's location. It's a trap. They've been discovered. Move, now! Maya commands, and her team springs into action. They draw their weapons and prepare for a fight, their bodies tense with the anticipation of the coming battle. The doors to the holding cells burst open, and the Vexar warriors flood in, their weapons drawn, their eyes filled with cold malice. But Maya and her team are ready. Among the Vexar warriors stands a familiar face, Commander Vrol, the same Vexar who had killed Ellie. His towering form looms over Maya as he steps forward, his yellow eyes glowing with malice. He sneers as he sees Maya's team preparing to fight. You think you can defeat me? You are just prey. Like all the others. The battle is brutal, as Vrol charges forward with lethal precision, his claws swiping through the air, leaving deep gashes in the walls and floor. The humans are quick, but Vrol's strength is immense, and his fury makes him a terrifying opponent. Maya's team fights back with everything they have, using every weapon and tactic at their disposal. But it's Maya, calm and focused amidst the chaos, who faces Vrol in the final confrontation. The two are locked in a brutal dance, each move a desperate attempt to outwit the other. Vrol is fast, stronger than any human, but Maya is relentless. She knows this fight is not just for survival, it is personal. She channels every ounce of her grief, her rage, and her determination into every strike. Vrol, once confident in his superiority, begins to falter under the intensity of Maya's assault. With one final, calculated move, Maya delivers the killing blow. Vrol collapses to the ground, his body lifeless, his yellow eyes dimming. The victory is hard-earned, but Maya's team emerges victorious. The Vexar warriors who had stood against them are now defeated, and the prisoners are freed. With the stronghold in ruins and the captives safe, Maya's team prepares to return to the surface, where the battle for Vexar's homeworld rages on. Admiral Chen's voice crackles through Maya's comms. We've breached their defenses. The final blow is ours. We will end this, once and for all. The human fleet, now in full control of the Vexar homeworld, has dealt a decisive blow to the Vexar Empire. The battle for the heart of Vexar territory is over, and humanity stands victorious. The fight has been long, but the war is finally coming to an end. The Vexar High Command watches with disdain as humanity's forces begin to move. Their faces are filled with confidence, as they believe their superior numbers and advanced technology will guarantee a swift victory. The Vexar warriors, large and fierce, are confident in their strength, knowing that their vast fleet and overwhelming power have always led to victory. In their minds, this will be no different. The Vexar commanders dismiss humanity as weak, soft creatures, whose attempts at resistance are doomed from the start. They believe that by merely swarming humanity's defenses with brute force, the war will be over quickly. But what the Vexar fail to understand is that humanity's greatest strength lies not in sheer firepower, but in something far deeper, something intangible. It is the bond between them, the shared will to protect one another, the collective drive to survive. Humans do not fight for power or glory. They fight because they have something worth protecting. And when they fight as one. In the midst of the Vexar's arrogance, the human fleet begins its assault. Small, agile ships glide through the void of space, moving in perfect harmony. Their movements are fluid, almost as if they are one entity, coordinated in a way the Vexar cannot predict. Each ship is a part of something larger, something far more complex than raw strength. The Vexar, with their overwhelming numbers, expect a battle of brute force. Instead, they are met with something much more dangerous, strategy. Human ships don't charge blindly into battle. Instead, they weave in and out of enemy fire, drawing the Vexar into traps and ambushes. They lure the Vexar ships into carefully planned positions, using their superior maneuverability to strike when and where the Vexar least expect it. The Vexar cannot understand how the humans anticipate their every move. The humans are unpredictable, elusive, their tactics a puzzle the Vexar cannot solve. Every time they think they have the upper hand, the humans slip away, leaving only destruction in their wake. The camera shifts to the human fleet, a tightly knit formation of ships moving with eerie precision. There is no hesitation, no discord. Every ship, every crew member, is focused on the same goal: to free the enslaved and bring chaos to the Vexar's carefully structured empire. The ships drop down from the shadows of asteroids, striking at Vexar outposts hidden deep within the galaxy. They move like ghosts, appearing from nowhere, attacking with lightning speed before vanishing into the blackness once again. The Vexar, confused and disoriented, try to regroup, but their efforts are in vain. Humanity's strikes are surgical, leaving the Vexar in disarray. The human fleet does not just attack for victory, they fight to free the countless species held captive by the Vexar, enslaved for generations. As the humans make their moves, they rescue the oppressed, those once beaten down by the Vexar's might, bringing them to safety, offering them hope. The freed species, once cowering in fear, now join humanity's cause, fighting alongside them. The Vexar are blindsided by this unexpected alliance. The slaves they once ruled with iron fists now turn against them, adding chaos to the already crumbling Vexar empire. In the heat of battle, the Vexar's confidence falters. Their ships, once powerful and imposing, now appear clumsy and slow. They are unprepared for the sheer willpower of humanity, the relentless drive of a species that will not be crushed. The Vexar commanders, who thought this would be an easy conquest, now watch in disbelief as their strongholds fall one after another. The Vexar warriors, trained for power, cannot comprehend how their enemies, so seemingly weak, have turned the tide of war. The chaos spreads across the Vexar fleet. Commanders shout orders, trying desperately to regain control, but the damage is done. The Vexar are unraveling. Their strength, their numbers, and their advanced technology mean nothing when faced with an enemy that refuses to back down, that fights with everything. Humanity. It is not the raw power of their ships or their technology that will defeat the Vexar. It is the strength of their unity, the bond between them, and their unrelenting will to fight for freedom. The Vexar will learn this lesson the hard way. Humanity may be small, but together, they are unstoppable. The galaxy will never be the same again. They ruled by fear, for 300 years. They believed compassion was weakness, and children were pawns. But in one quiet corner of the galaxy, on a small human colony called Nova Haven, they made a mistake. They took a child. And in doing so, they awakened something ancient. Something unstoppable. Not vengeance. Not war. But the unshakable love of a species that would cross the stars, to bring its children home. They thought humanity was fragile. But they didn't understand. We don't fight for power. We fight for each other. And in the end, a single brave child saved not just lives, but the soul of two civilizations. The war that began with cruelty ended with understanding. And somewhere, among the stars, Ellie Chen is smiling. Because hope, once planted in the hearts of the young, can bloom into peace, for an entire galaxy.